What's up, guys? I'm Tim Geddes. I'm here with Colin Moriarty.
Beyond.
And we are playing Metroid.
It's very exciting.
So we're playing a lot of these Nintendo games, a lot of our classics. It's the 125th anniversary of Nintendo. So to celebrate, we're playing their classic games.
Yeah, and this is really one of the great games, especially early on in NES's life cycle. It's a game that was significantly ahead of its time.
Yeah.
And a game that inspired that whole Metroidvania thing you hear so much
Exactly.
about.
Man, so just even here, the opening, the level layout, and just like you just go to left, you get the Morphball immediately, and the game design here is so good.
Yeah, and it teaches you how to use it. I mean, you're just pressing down to use it, but it forces you to use it to get out. So immediately just the design of the game, no words, nothing spoken. It's a very common theme in early NES games because there was no other way to do it, and it's the most clever way to do it still, I think, to teach players something. Instead of these long, cumbersome tutorials that are just totally unnecessary.
Yeah. And it's so, the atmosphere of this game, like that gets brought up a lot with Metroid games, like almost the point of it just being a cliche, but like seriously, it's so good.
It is, and I think that, you know, Metroid shares, I think, similar atmospheric qualities as some other early NES games like Castlevania and Castlevania 2, even Metal Gear and games like this that were really significantly ahead of their time, that I don't think we appreciate how in 86, 87, when people were really rocking this game for the first time, how they'd never seen anything like this, something so sprawling and open, and non-linear. And obviously a non-linear game in the mid to late 80s was, you know, was totally unheard of.
Well, what's even crazy about this is like that first screen, like Mario teaches you go right, go right, go right. You have to go left.
Right. Exactly.
Just that alone is so cool.
And I think that, yeah, I don't think that that's an accident. You know, I think that, you know, it's the same thing kind of with Kid Icarus, where, you know, because those games actually came out around the same time, that that game was kind of teaching you a verticality and a side-scrolling and automatic side-scrolling and all those kinds of things that were introduced actually later and even in Mario games. But Metroid was really all about seeing and doing as you want, when you want. And there are things you don't have to do, and there are things you don't have to see. And that's kind of cool.
Yeah, this is one of the first games to really like have the whole sequence breaking and all of that. And it's crazy that you can beat it so many different ways. And every playthrough you do of this game, you could do differently. And that's awesome.
I agree. So we're just, you know, we're showing you, we could put a password. I mean, one of the funny things, I was talking about this on another video, was, you know, what I always respected so much about Zelda, the original Zelda, which is actually just as old as Metroid, is that it had a battery, an onboard battery, so there was no cryptic password taking and keeping like there was in Metroid and Kid Icarus. And that was the problem with Metroid, was, man, you had to be careful when you were writing those digits down, because maybe you would accidentally write that O down, maybe you'd write that 0 down instead. I would always, I don't know about you, but when I would take a password in these games, I'd always immediately turn the game back on and make sure I got it right.
Sure.
So if I got it wrong, I at least knew that I already screwed up and I don't have to pretend like I'm going to be able to go back. So we're going way up. We're climbing. We're climbing.
It's so crazy how much is shown with so little graphical ability. Like, it's pitch black in the back, but they do so much with just these rooms and with the doors and everything. It's
this animation's so funny
crazy.
too.
Yeah.
It's just like,
her head is so big.
Yeah, it's huge.
And just the sheer fact that, like, now we all like, oh, well, obviously. But this is a girl. You were playing as a girl.
Yeah, and you don't find out.
Didn't know that until the end.
Until the end of the game.
And that's so crazy. Like, this game is so special for so many different reasons like that.
And obviously Metroid continued on, and this is not, you know, this is a great game. I wouldn't say this is the best Metroid game. I think everyone would agree that that's Super Metroid. But you know, it continued on in Metroid 2 on Game Boy, which was a fantastic game, and also a game that really pushed that hardware. And then obviously Super Metroid, which was such an important game in the 90s, a mid to late SNES release that, you know, influenced arguably, I would say, an even better game, which is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So it's funny how this game is just so fundamentally important, and I don't think that people often, people don't often look at Metroid as one of those games that's incredibly influential. That you know, it's one of those almost B-tier Nintendo franchises.
Metroid's in such a weird place because it's not Mario, it's not Zelda, but why isn't it? That's the thing. Is like, it's so important and it's so good.
I agree, and I just think Nintendo didn't give it the love it deserved even at the time. I think the same thing can be said for Kid Icarus. I think the same can be said for Star Tropics and other games that, you know, that came and went, that, you know, were great in their own right. So, oh god, what am I doing?
And there's just something special about seeing that slowdown when there's a lot of enemies on the screen.
For
like,
sure.
NES was just, every game had that. But there's something just good about that, where you're just like, it felt like it was part of the game, even though it shouldn't have been.
I don't know, Tim. This is bringing me back. Man, I'm not playing very well, but this is definitely. I'm not even really going for anything. I'm just trying to show people some different environments.
Well, that's the thing, though. Even just like running through the enemies and taking the damage, like not even caring, like that's part of the game.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Part of just being like, I just need to explore. I just need to see what's going on. If I die, I'll try next time.
That's the one thing a lot of people kind of more novice at old school games don't understand is when you're hit, you got to use that invincibility while you have it, and you gotta get going. Or you're just going to take more damage. So, so I think we've given people a nice little taste of Metroid, and it's a game that I really suggest. You can play it in so many different ways. Wii U, I think you played on your 3DS. It's a game that really deserves your attention, especially if you're a younger gamer or less an experienced gamer. You don't understand where some of these classics came from. I mean, Metroid is just an essential game, but just steel yourself because it's somewhat difficult, especially if you're rushing way ahead of where you should be, like I am right now.
And even the remake, the Zero Mission, the GBA, that was an excellent game. It made it play a little more like Super Metroid, and it definitely wasn't as challenging as this one. But it was great in its own right. But you should definitely do yourself the favor, at least seeing where it all started.
So that's it. That's Metroid.
So for more Nintendo Let's Plays, make sure you stay tuned to IGN.